Imagine this. You are the finance minister of a rising economic powerhouse, say Russia or China. You've got trillions tied up in U.S. dollars, safe, liquid, the gold standard of global finance. But then, bam, geopolitical tensions erupt. The U.S. slaps sanctions on your country, freezing your assets overnight. Suddenly, those dollars aren't just paper. They're weapons pointed at your economy. You can't access your reserves, trade grinds to a halt, and your nation's wealth evaporates in a Washington boardroom. What do? Do you double down on the dollar that's biting you? Or do you scramble for alternatives, gold, yuan, even Bitcoin, to break free? Here's the paradox. The U.S. dollar powers the world, funding everything from oil deals to tech startups. Yet its very strength sows the seeds of rebellion. Why has it ruled for decades? What hidden forces are chipping away at its throne? And could 2026 be the year it starts to crumble? Stick around, because we're diving into the dollar's epic rise, its iron grip, and the gathering storm that might just dethrone it. This isn't some dry econ lecture. It's a thriller with trillions at stake. But before we unpack the drama, let's set the stage. Picture the world in 1944, right as World War II winds down. 44 nations gather in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, desperate to rebuild from the ashes. The U.S. emerges as the unchallenged superpower, its factories humming, its gold vaults bulging with 20,000 tons, about 70% of the world's supply. Enter the Bretton Woods Agreement. Every currency pegs to the dollar, and the dollar pegs to gold at $35 an ounce. It's genius, stable, predictable, and it catapults the greenback to global reserve status. Central banks hoard dollars like treasure, using them for trade and reserves. By 1950, the dollar accounts for over 50% of international payments. Key players, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and World Bank, both U.S.-backed, enforce the rules. The before state feels unbreakable. Europe and Japan rebuild with Marshall Plan dollars, $13 billion from Uncle Sam between 1948 and 1952, cementing U.S. economic hegemony. But hidden warnings lurk. U.S. spending skyrockets. Vietnam War costs $168 billion by 1973. Great Society programs add trillions. Foreign nations stockpile dollars, but America's gold reserves dwindle from 20,000 tons in 1950 to under 9,000 by 1971. French President Charles de Gaulle spots the flaw, shipping dollars back for gold in the 1960s, calling it an exorbitant privilege for the U.S. to print money the world must accept. Nobody listens until the system buckles. But here's where it gets interesting.
1. The birth of a giant. Bretton Woods and dollar supremacy. Let's rewind to July 1944. Allied leaders, including John Maynard Keynes for Britain, hammer out a new world order. The U.S., holding 574 million ounces of gold, worth $20 billion at the time, dictates terms. Result? The dollar becomes the anchor, convertible to gold, while others fix to it. By 1959, dollars make up 87% of global reserves. Real example, Japan pegs the yen at 360 to the dollar in 1949, fueling its export boom. Cause and effect, this setup lets the U.S. borrow cheaply. Interest rates hover at 2-3% in the 1950s, while exporting inflation. Analogy, it's like the dollar is the sun in a solar system, pulling everything into orbit. But mini cliffhanger, what happens when the sun starts to wobble? Let's do the math. U.S. gold reserves peak at $24.7 billion in 1949, but by 1960, liabilities exceed gold by $2 billion, foreshadowing disaster. 2. Nixon's shock, ditching gold and floating free. Fast forward to August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon, facing a gold run, France alone redeems $191 million that summer, announces on TV, no more gold convertibility. Boom, the Bretton Woods system shatters. Dollars in circulation, over $50 billion abroad, but U.S. gold, just $10 billion. Immediate effect, currencies float. The dollar devalues 8% against gold to $38 per ounce, sparking inflation, US CPI jumps from 4.3% in 1971 to 11.1% in 1974. Example, West Germany floats the mark in May 1971, appreciating 7% against the dollar in weeks. Metaphor, it's like cutting the anchor chain on a ship. The dollar drifts, but gains freedom to multiply. Sarcasm alert. Great move, Nixon. Now the world trusts your fiat money because... Why exactly? Quick pause. If you're realizing how fragile currency empires are, hit subscribe for more financial wake-up calls. But wait, plot twist. This chaos births a new lifeline.
3. The Petrodollar Pact. Oil fuels eternal dominance. Enter 1973. The Yom Kippur War triggers an OPEC oil embargo. Prices quadruple from $3 to $12 a barrel. U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger brokers a deal with Saudi Arabia in 1974. Price oil in dollars, invest surpluses in U.S. treasuries. In return, military protection. Result, petrodollars flood in. Saudi Arabia alone recycles $100 billion into U.S. assets by 1980. Data point, by 1975, 85% of global oil trades in dollars. Cause, every oil importer needs dollars, boosting demand. Real example, Iran, pre-revolution, prices oil in dollars. Post-1979, it sticks due to the system. Analogy, the dollar becomes an economic boa constrictor, squeezing oil-dependent nations. Let's run the numbers. Global oil trade hits $100 billion annually by 1980. That's a dollar bonanza. But the disaster we'll get to later, this ties the dollar to volatile geopolitics. 4. Peak power. The dollar's golden era in the 1990s-2000s. It's the 1990s. U.S. GDP surges 4% yearly. Tech boom adds $10 trillion in market value. Dollar share of reserves peaks at 71% in 1999. Key player, Alan Greenspan, Fed chair, keeps rates low, attracting capital. Before state, post-Cold War, everyone pegs to the dollar. Argentina in 1991 at 1-to-1, leading to a decade of stability, until it doesn't. Hidden signs, Euro launches in 1999, grabbing 18% reserves by 2002. Example, China's yuan peg at 8.28 to the dollar from 1994-2005, amassing $1 trillion reserves by 2007. Effect, U.S. runs deficits, $500 billion by 2006, but foreigners funded. Metaphor, dollar as Tony Soprano, feared, respected, untouchable. Direct to you, imagine borrowing at 4% while the world pays 6%. That's U.S. privilege, saving $100 billion yearly in interest. Many mystery, but what if a crisis exposes the mob boss's weaknesses? 5. Cracks appear. The 2008 meltdown shakes faith. September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers collapses, $600 billion in assets vaporized. U.S. subprime mess, $1.2 trillion in bad loans, triggers global freeze. Dollar initially surges 20% as safe haven, but reserves dip to 62% by 2010. Cause, Fed prints $2.3 trillion via QE, diluting value. Example, Iceland's banks fail, holding $60 billion in foreign debt. Dollar liquidity dries up. Bull case, dollar rebounds, still 85% of FX trades. Bear case, euro hits 31% reserves peak in 2009. Sarcasm, nice job, Wall Street. You turned the dollar into a financial murder scene. Analogy, like a superhero with a kryptonite allergy. Strong, but vulnerable. Before we continue, let me know in comments, has a financial crisis ever hit your wallet? This is where it gets crazy, so stay with me.
6. Weaponizing the dollar. Sanctions spark rebellion. Jump to February 24, 2022. Russia invades Ukraine. U.S. freezes $300 billion in Russian reserves, boots banks from SWIFT. Effect, Russia shifts to yuan. Trade with China jumps 30% to $190 billion in 2022, 20% in yuan. Data, global sanctions triple from 2010-2020, 80% U.S.-led. Example, Iran, sanctioned since 2018, trades oil with China in yuan, $20 billion annually by 2023. Cause, nations fear weaponization. IMF warns it erodes trust. Metaphor, dollar as a double-edged sword, cuts enemies but wounds the wielder. Let's do the math. Frozen assets total $1 trillion since 2014. That's a lot of incentive to diversify. Foreshadowing, remember the petrodollar? Saudi Arabia eyes yuan oil sales in 2023. 7. Rise of rivals, China, BRICS, and digital disruptors. Enter Xi Jinping's China, yuan internationalization since 2010, now 2.7% reserves by 2025. BRICS expands in 2023, adds Iran, UAE, pushing local currency trade to 50% by 2026. Example, Brazil-China deal, March 2023, $150 billion trade, 40% in yuan/real.
Crypto threat, Bitcoin as reserve. U.S. announces strategic Bitcoin reserve in March 2025, holding 200,000 BTC worth $40 billion. Digital Enbridge Project 2024. China, Saudi, Thailand test cross-border payments, settling $50 million in trials. Cause, U.S. tariffs under Trump 2.0 in 2025, 10 to 60% on imports, accelerate hedging. Analogy, dollar as blockbuster video. Yuan and crypto are Netflix. Pop culture, like Thanos collecting Infinity Stones, BRICS assembles alternatives. But the kicker, dollar still 58% reserves in 2025. 8. Measuring the decline. Stats that signal trouble. Current data, dollar index drops 10% in 2025 to below 97 in January 2026, 4-year low. Reserves down from 71% in 1999 to 58% now. FX trades still 88%, but yuan up 7%. Gold buys, central banks add 1,000 tons in 2023. Prices hit $2,600 per ounce. Example, Russia dumps dollars. Reserves 0% USD by 2024, up 40% gold. Effect, U.S. debt at $35 trillion in 2025. Interest $1 trillion yearly. Bull, no rival matches liquidity. $30 trillion treasury market. Bear, de-dollarization saves sanctioned nations billions. Direct, let's run numbers. U.S. current account deficit 6% GDP in 2025. Unsustainable. Mini cliffhanger, if trends hold, dollar share could dip below 50% by 2030.
Now, the breaking point. Everything collapses in slow motion. It's not one explosion, but a series of detonations. Ground zero, the 2022 Russia sanctions. $300 billion frozen, forcing a pivot. Immediate fallout? Russia's GDP shrinks 2.1% in 2022, but rebounds 3.6% in 2023 via yuan trade. Shocking revelation? U.S. allies hedge too. Japan adds yuan reserves to 5% by 2024. Then Trump returns in 2025. Tariffs slam China, 60%, Mexico 25%, sparking retaliation. Dollar falls 8%, broad index. Winners? China. Yuan trade with BRICS hits $500 billion in 2025, up 50%. Losers? U.S. exporters, $200 billion hit. Consumers pay 10% more for imports. Exact numbers? Global de-dollarization accelerates. Non-dollar trade up 20% since 2022. Saudi Arabia announces yuan oil deals with China in December 2025, covering 10% of exports, $80 billion. Plot twist? U.S. debt crisis looms. $1.9 trillion deficit in 2025, ratings downgrade threat. Consequences? Emerging markets dump treasuries. Foreign ownership drops to 30% from 45% in 2010. Who lost big? Pension funds tied to dollars. Winners, gold bugs, up 30% since 2022. This isn't the end, but the tipping point. Dollar dominance fractures, alternatives surge. Now, before you sit back and laugh at history repeating, consider this. We're seeing echoes today. Trump's 2025 tariffs, universal 10%, China-specific 60%, mirror 1930s protectionism that tanked the pound. Similar patterns? BRICS Bridge launches in 2026, enabling dollar-free trade among 10 nations, potentially $1 trillion annually. China's currency swaps hit 32 partners by 2025, up from 16 in 2011. Canary in the coal mine? Venezuela's 2026 crisis. U.S. seizes assets, pushing Maduro to Bitcoin trades worth $5 billion. Next up, Iran fully yuanizes oil with China, $30 billion shift. Companies like India's Reliance Industries invoice 20% in rupees by 2026. This is the canary wheezing. De-dollarization isn't ideology, it's survival. If U.S. debt balloons to 130% GDP by 2030 as projected, watch allies like Japan holding $1.1 trillion treasuries diversify faster.
3 clear lessons from this saga. First, currency dominance teaches us about power's fragility. Empires like Britain's pound ruled for 200 years but fell when debt, 120% GDP post-World War I, and wars eroded trust.
The U.S. mirrors this with $35 trillion debt. Second, the hidden pattern most miss. Network effects lock in dominance, but sanctions break them. Russia's pivot cut dollar use 50% in Eurasian trade. Third, why this matters to you personally. A weaker dollar means higher import prices. Your coffee jumps 15%. Vacations cost more. But opportunities too. Diversify into gold or euro assets, just like central banks. One provocative final thought. What if the dollar's fall isn't a crash, but a slow fade into a multi-currency world? If BRICS succeeds, your grandkids might trade in yuan. Tease for next. The rise of crypto empires, Bitcoin versus governments. Drop a comment. How long do you think the dollar stays king? Like, subscribe, and hit notifications. We're just scratching the surface of financial revolutions.